Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to take a close look at a really significant piece of legislation from Nepal. It's the Good Governance Management and Operation Act from 2064, or 2008 for most of us. Our goal here is to really get under the skin of this act, understand what it's trying to do for governance in Nepal.
Absolutely. And this act, it's really foundational. It's designed to make sure public administration in Nepal really serves the people. It emphasizes principles that are critical for good governance anywhere, really.
Exactly. So the core idea, as we see it, is establishing good governance by making the whole system, the public administration, genuinely pro-people. It wants to embed values like accountability,
hmm
making sure people in power answer for what they do.
Right. And transparency, too, openness in how
Yeah.
decisions are made.
Inclusivity, so everyone's considered, and participation, getting the public involved.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's about getting effective results for the Nepali people.
And holding all that up are some really core values the act promotes. We're talking about the rule of law being supreme, a commitment to clean administration, no corruption, sound financial discipline, and managing public resources efficiently and responsibly.
Those sound like the pillars, basically.
They really are the foundation the act tries to build on.
So in this deep dive, we'll unpack the key parts of this law. We want you to get a clear picture of how governance is supposed to work in Nepal, according to this act anyway. It's like looking under the hood.
Precisely. And the act helps us because it's structured into chapters. Each chapter tackles a different aspect, so we can go through it logically, piece by piece.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Let's start with Chapter 1, Preliminary. This usually sets the stage, right? Definitions and basics.
That's right. Article 1 gives the official title, Good Governance, Management, and Operation Act, 2064-2008. And importantly, it says it kicked in immediately back in February 2008. So it's been the law for quite some time now.
Good to know. Then Article 2, Definitions. Always crucial for understanding the rest.
Absolutely vital. For instance, constitution here means the interim constitution of Nepal from 2007, which was in place then. And minister, it's quite broad. It includes the prime minister, deputy PMs, ministers, but also ministers of state running their own ministry.
So it covers the political leadership quite comprehensively.
Yes. And then there's secretary. Again, it's not just the head of a ministry. It includes the chief secretary, the top civil servant, and other special class officers acting as secretaries.
Okay, so that signals the level of administrative authority we're dealing with.
And ministry is also defined broadly.
Yeah.
It covers the ministries themselves, the PM's office, the Council of Ministers, constitutional bodies, basically any central level office.
So the Act's reach seems pretty wide across the government structure.
It does. Then you have head of the department, the chief of a department or equivalent office, and office in charge, simply the head of any government office.
And finally, prescribed or as prescribed. What does that mean?
That just refers to anything detailed in the specific rules made under this act. So the act sets the principles, and the rules fill in the operational details.
Got it. So these definitions in Chapter 1 really give us the vocabulary we need for the rest of the Act.
Exactly. Essential for clear interpretation and consistent application.
All right, let's move to Chapter 2. General provisions regarding to the operation of governance. This sounds like the big picture principles for how things should run.
That's it. Article 3 starts by outlining the different levels of administration: central, regional, zonal, district, and local.
And the Act notes that the exact setup, the boundaries of regions, zones, districts, local units, that's determined by other existing laws, right?
Correct. This act fits into that existing structure. Then Article 4 talks about setting up thematic ministries and departments at the central level, basically dividing work by subject area.
And how that division happens, the number of ministries that's set by the government's own division of works rules.
Yes, exactly. And subsection 3 really highlights the role of the Prime Minister's office and the Council of Ministers. It calls them the chief administrative organ. So clearly placing executive authority right at the top.
And Article 5 allows the government to set up other bodies, too, like secretariats, commissions, boards.
Yes, whatever is needed to get the administrative job done effectively. The government defines their specific functions when they set them up.
Okay, now Article 6 seems really important. It talks about the fundamental basis for carrying out administration for good governance. And interestingly, it goes beyond just the Constitution or other laws.
It does. It lists these core guiding principles. First and foremost, the greater interest of nation and people. That sets a high standard right away.
Then equity and inclusiveness, making sure governance benefits everyone, no discrimination.
Of course, the rule of law is there,
Yeah.
a cornerstone we mentioned. And critically, a guarantee of human rights is explicitly listed as fundamental.
That's huge.
Absolutely.
The list continues with transparency, objectivity, accountability, and honesty. These are the hallmarks the Act wants to see in the system.
It also mentions economic discipline, corruption-free, lean, and people-oriented administration. So efficiency and service focus.
Yes, and impartiality and neutrality of the administrative machinery. Fair decisions, no bias. Plus, access of people to administrative mechanisms and its decisions, vital for public trust.
Also, decentralization and dilution of powers, pushing authority downwards.
And finally, popular participation and optimum utilization of local resources, getting communities involved and using local assets wisely. It's a really comprehensive list, painting a picture of the ideal administrative culture.
It really is. Then Article 7 shifts to specific policies to be pursued by the government. These are in addition to policies already in the Constitution or other laws.
Right. These are key directions. It starts with economic liberalization, suggesting a more market-oriented approach. Poverty alleviation is right up there, clear priority. And the overall goal of social justice.
I also see a focus on sustainability. Sustainable and efficient management of natural and public resources and environmental protection.
Yes, very important. And the Act explicitly mentions empowerment of women and promotion of gender justice, tackling inequality.
And uplifting of ethnic groups, Dalit, economically and socially backward classes. So inclusive development, addressing historical disadvantage.
And lastly, development of remote areas and balanced regional development, trying to bridge those geographical gaps. Subsection 2 makes it clear the government needs to actually do things, run programs and projects to implement these policies.
So it's not just stating aims, it's about action.
Exactly. These policies give a clear framework for administrative action, aligning it with national goals.
Okay, now let's get into Chapter 3. Operation and responsibility of administrative function. This sounds like where we see who does what.
Precisely. Article 8 sets the tone. Maintaining good governance is everyone's job, and it stresses acting fast and delivering results to the people on time.
Article 9 then focuses on the minister's role. Beyond their usual duties, they oversee their ministry's functions, policy matters, and can direct officials.
And those officials have to comply promptly with those directions. Then Article 10 dives into the Chief Secretary's role. This is the top administrative official. A very big job.
A lot of functions listed here. Head of administration in the PM's office, supervising other secretaries.
Right. Coordination is key. Coordinating between ministries, coordinating governance reforms. They also act as secretary to the Council of Ministers, authenticating its decisions. That's crucial.
And they mobilize ministries to actually implement government decisions and track progress.
Yes, and they're meant to push for efficiency, motivate officials towards a lean administration. They convene and supervise meetings of secretaries, monitor central admin functions.
They even scrutinize agendas before they go to the Council of Ministers and monitor international treaty implementation.
Correct. They can send back incomplete proposals and, yes, monitor treaty enforcement, plus other prescribed functions. The chief secretary is really pivotal.
Okay, then Article 11, the responsibility of the secretary. This is the administrative head of a specific ministry or similar body.
Right. They support the minister in policy formulation, execute functions under the minister's direction, and proactively suggest policy reforms.
And they manage the day-to-day, control staff, supervise subordinate offices.
Yes, supervise management, daily work, civil servants within their ministry, supervise lower offices, give directives. They implement approved policies and programs and have to report monthly to the PM's office on significant activities.
They also formulate annual programs, implement them, monitor, evaluate, and report annually to their minister.
And handle personnel matters up to a certain level, gazetted class 2, like transfers, recruitment, though inter-ministry transfers fall under other laws.
They nominate people for foreign study or training, approve foreign visits.
Implement government decisions from secretaries' meetings. They can even reward outstanding staff with bonuses or grade increases.
And they have to oversee projects, take action if there are delays or poor quality.
Yes, oversee projects under their ministry, direct heads of department or project chiefs, and take action if needed. And importantly, they must keep their minister informed about significant personnel actions and are ultimately accountable to the government. A very demanding role.
Definitely seems like it. Next, Article 12, the responsibility of the head of the department, the chief of a specific department.
Their focus is on the department's work, managing daily operations, supervising staff, ensuring quick quality services. Continuous improvement is mentioned.
They also suggest reforms to the secretary, organize staff training.
Exactly. Submit regular reports to the secretary monthly, annually,
handle personnel matters for staff up to gazetted Class 3 within their department.
They can also reward excellent staff and inspect projects run by offices under them.
Yes, inspect projects, give directions, and initiate departmental action for delays or poor quality, reporting this up to the secretary.
Okay, and finally in this chapter, Article 13, the responsibility of the chief office holder. This is the head of a specific local level office.
That's right. Managing their office, daily functions, supervising staff, handling deputations within their office, transferring non-gazetted staff locally.
They recommend staff for honors, ensure projects finish on time, and focus on making services effective for the public.
Correct. So Chapter 3 really maps out that hierarchy and clarifies who's responsible for what at each level. Seems essential for accountability.
Absolutely. Clear roles, clear responsibility.
It provides that fundamental structure for accountability within the administration.
All right, let's turn to Chapter 4. This is about the procedure to be adopted while carrying out administrative function. So how decisions should be made.
Exactly. Process matters. Article 14 says officials must follow prescribed legal procedures, but if there aren't specific procedures in the law for something,
Then they need to use a reasonable procedure considering the specifics of the situation. So legality, but also common sense.
right. And Article 15 tackles timing. Decisions need to be made within legal time limits, if they exist. If not, then within a reasonable time.
What if they can't decide on time because they're waiting for information?
They have to record the reasons for the delay and tell their superior immediately. Accountability for delays.
Article 16 focuses on transparency in decision-making. How is that defined here?
It means making decisions based on clear standards, without prejudice, but also respecting legal confidentiality. To be transparent, they should consider input from subordinate staff, clearly state their own reasoning at each step, answer questions, and maybe even get expert opinions, legal or technical.
And if they get an expert opinion but don't follow it?
They have to document why they didn't follow it. Reasons are key.
Which leads to Article 17 decisions must clearly state the basis and reasons behind them. Justifiable decisions.
Precisely. Then Article 18 hits a really critical point, conflicts of interest. Officials are banned from making decisions where they, their close family, or family businesses could directly benefit.
Unless it's clearly in the greater public interest.
That's the exception. Otherwise, they must pass the decision up the chain, maybe even to the chief secretary or the government itself. There are also specific restrictions for policymakers or regulators about getting involved with related private or non-governmental entities during and for a year after their service.
What happens if they violate these rules?
Departmental action, maybe fines. They can appeal, but importantly, any decision made in violation of this conflict of interest section is automatically void. That's quite strong.
It is. Article 19 introduces performance contracts. What are those for?
For specific government work, maybe time-bound tasks, quantity-based goals, or national priority projects, the contract sets out the terms duration, quality, quantity needed.
And the person or body assigned the contract is obligated to perform.
Yes. If delays happen due to force majeure things beyond their control, they have to report it, explain why, and the contract might be amended. But if someone fails to perform without a good reason.
Departmental action.
Yes. And if the failure was due to malice, recklessness, or negligence, and it caused financial loss, the government can actually recover compensation from that official. Performance linked directly to consequences.
Interesting. Article 20 talks about consulting civil society or stakeholders. When is that required?
Before implementing decisions on matters of significant public concern. This includes doing impact assessments and seriously considering the feedback received.
And what counts as a matter of public concern?
Things like setting up entirely new systems, getting rid of old ones, major development projects affecting the public, or other things specified later. It's about participation.
Article 21 really emphasizes the duty to just do the job, perform work as assigned, on time, no dodging responsibility or improperly delegating.
Right. Failing to perform, especially with bad intent, or neglecting duties can lead to admonishment. Repeated failures could mean departmental action for incompetence.
Article 22 covers delegation of power. Officials can delegate to peers or subordinates if the law allows.
Yes, but the person delegating still holds the ultimate responsibility, and they can revoke the delegation anytime. Crucially, though, you cannot delegate the power to make decisions that require a judicial mindset. Some things have to stay with the designated authority.
Okay. And the last one in this chapter, Article 23, is about codes of conduct.
Yes, everyone in public office has to follow a prescribed code of conduct during their service and even for some time after retiring. Different bodies are responsible for creating these codes for different groups. The Judicial Council for judges, the government for civil servants, etc.
And violating the code can lead to departmental action.
Yes, and it's recorded. But importantly, this doesn't stop criminal proceedings if the violation was also a crime under other laws. It stresses ethical behavior.
So, Chapter 4 really sets out the how-to of administration procedures, transparency, accountability, ethics, public engagement.
A comprehensive framework for how administrative functions should actually happen.
Right, let's tackle the final chapter, Chapter 5, miscellaneous. Usually a mix of different things.
It is. Article 24 starts with things officials should always keep in mind, like taking initiative, being cost-effective, remembering public office is about service, and people have a right to it.
Also, being aware that delays waste resources, informing higher-ups about unavoidable delays, and maybe the public, too, if services are affected.
Yes, and staying within their own authority and being modest and respectful to service users. Basic, good practice reminders.
Article 25 seems very practical. The Citizens Charter, every public-facing office needs one.
Yes, displayed prominently. It has to list the services, the procedure to get them, the expected time, who's responsible, any fees, and other relevant info.
And the office is bound to deliver according to the charter.
That's the key part. They have a duty to deliver as promised. Failure without a good reason can lead to departmental action against the official and maybe even compensation for the citizen, a tool for accountability.
Article 26 mentions mobile service delivery, taking services out to people's localities.
Yes, the government can arrange that, especially for collective or individual concerns, improving access, particularly in remote areas.
Article 27 covers service fees. They should be reasonable based on social justice, and maybe concessions for remote or backward areas.
Exactly. Ensuring equitable access.
Article 28 opens the door to projects run with direct public participation and ownership.
It suggests that possibility, yes. The detailed procedures would be set out later in regulations. Points towards more community involvement.
Article 29 requires a governance reform unit in every ministry.
Yes, a dedicated unit focused on continuous improvement. Their specific functions are to be prescribed later.
Article 30 mandates public hearings by regional, zonal, district, local chief officers.
Yes, regular hearings for transparency, objectivity, and addressing public concerns. They should involve experts, stakeholders, civil society, local officials. Though matters already decided judicially are excluded, it's about local accountability.
Article 31 sets up a grievance management system, complaint boxes in every office.
Yes, visible boxes, opened regularly every 3 days by a responsible officer, maybe with others present. Reasonable complaints and suggestions should lead to timely action. There's a process for complaints against office heads, too.
And actions taken are made public.
Yes, posted on notice boards. Irrelevant complaints can be returned or posted, too. It's a formal channel for feedback and redress.
Article 32. Officials need government approval to open foreign bank accounts usually.
Generally, yes, unless specific exceptions are prescribed.
Article 33. No interfering with other officials' duties. Straightforward.
Keeps lines of authority clear. Violations can lead to legal action.
Article 34 allows appointing expert advisors from outside the civil service when needed.
Yes, if specific expertise is required. Their terms, duties, pay, code of conduct are all defined upon appointment, accessing external knowledge.
Article 35 requires every ministry, department, agency to have a spokesperson.
Yes, to provide information to the public and stakeholders about what the organization does, promoting communication and transparency.
Article 36 seems quite significant. It makes parts of this act apply to other bodies, too. Constitutional bodies, local bodies, state-owned corporations.
Yes, key sections related to good governance principles and procedures have to be implemented by them too, adapted as needed. It aims for consistency across the board.
Article 37 encourages using computerized IT systems based on resources.
Acknowledges the role of technology in modernizing government. Details to be prescribed.
Article 38 sets up monitoring and evaluation committees, a central one led by the Chief Secretary.
Yes, to improve service delivery and monitor officials' work. Similar committees can be set up regionally and locally, plus internal monitoring in ministries, high-level oversight.
Article 39 is a catch-all. Other provisions on government work completion and supervision will be as prescribed later.
Standard legal provision.
Article 40. Any extra facilities for top officials beyond their role are prescribed by the government.
Controls perks and benefits.
Article 41. Annual reporting requirements for central bodies, detailing programs, progress, spending.
Yes, submitted upwards to the PM's office or relevant authority, can be made public. Crucially, these reports must include details on good governance reforms undertaken. And the Prime Minister has to report annually to Parliament on overall progress in governance reform. High-level accountability.
Article 42. Work performance indicators for officials will be prescribed later, allows for specific metrics.
Yes, for measuring effectiveness.
Article 43. Saving of acts done in good faith protects officials acting honestly under the law.
A standard legal protection for bona fide actions.
Article 44. Government can make rules to implement the act.
Gives authority for detailed regulations.
Article 45. Government can also create directives or manuals for efficiency manageable, speedy, economical work.
Focuses on practical improvements in how offices run.
Article 46 clarifies this act applies to things within it, other laws apply elsewhere.
Defines its scope relative to other legislation.
And finally, Article 47 deals with repealing the previous 2002 ordinance, ensuring a smooth legal transition. Standard stuff.
Exactly. Making sure past actions, rights, penalties, and ongoing cases under the old ordinance aren't improperly affected by the repeal.
So, Chapter 5 really rounds things out with a lot of practical measures. Citizen charters, grievance handling, monitoring, reporting, IT, public participation aspects.
It does. It covered a wide range of mechanisms aimed at making governance work better on the ground.
Well, that brings us to the end of our walkthrough of Nepal's Good Governance Act of 2064. It's clear this is meant to be a really comprehensive blueprint for public administration in Nepal, driving towards being more effective, accountable, and focused on the citizen.
Absolutely. It hammers home those core ideas.
Yeah.
Accountability, transparency, efficiency, and that service delivery has to be centered around the needs of the Nepali people.
It definitely seems like a solid legal foundation for efforts to improve governance, both then and now.
It provides the framework, yes. Which leads to a key question, really, for you listening. We've seen the framework, but what does it actually take to make it work in practice? What are the biggest hurdles, maybe, to achieving truly good governance, especially in a complex and changing society? Something to think about how you translate these principles into everyday reality.